What is going on, guys, and welcome back once again. My name is Jordan, also known as Jmonster, and you are watching the third battle in the series of three between myself and JADLI CZ. Yes, I got his name right this time. This is our final battle in the TW Center Third Age tournament. He is playing as Harad, I am playing as Rohan, and we are clashing on the fields of Pelennor just outside of Minas Tirith, just like it was in the book, and it is a very epic fight. You guys are really going to enjoy this. So we're going to look very quickly at the army compositions, and then we're going to get right into the battle. So I have I have about four units of Eorling Axemen. I've got 3 units of Swordsmen in the center here. Behind them I've got 3 units of Riddermark Heavy Axemen. These are very powerful shock troops, but extremely vulnerable to missile fire. We have 3 units of Eorling Archers. They're really not the killing power of our army. They're just there to kind of keep his archers busy. And on my flanks, I have 1 unit of Rohan Riders, 1 unit of Heavy Lancers, another unit of Heavy Lancers. I believe he has some Royal Guard on the other side as well. We've got 6 units of Cav here, the max Cav you can take. Rohan Riders and 2 units of Royal Guard. So we've got 2 Eored Lancers on one flank, 2 Royal Guard on the other. Very balanced, very tough force. Let's take a look at our enemy's army here. He's got 4 units of Southron Pikemen. He's obviously expecting a very cavalry-heavy army, and he is good to fear that. Or he is right to fear that. We got 2 units of Haradrim Spearmen in the center. Behind them, we've got 3 units of Corsair Archers. A couple units of what look like Serpent Guard in the back, backed up by a couple units, I think, of Southron Archers. He's got 3 units of Serpent Guard and 3 units of Southron Lancers. These are kind of like a medium cav, but they're fairly lightly armored. He did kind of skip a little bit on his heavy cavalry wing in order to field a lot more troops. It's probably a lot of that money went into fielding these pikemen. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start the battle in earnest. I am just setting up my troops here, but of course I do rush forward. I'm expecting him to start this close. He's adopting a very defensive formation. It's not a bad idea when you've brought this many pikemen. The pikemen from the front tend to do really well against melee troops. Surprisingly, they're not nearly as strong in this version of the game as they are in, say, Rome 1, for example. But these Haradrim Spearmen in here in the center are going to have a very tough time against my Eorling Swordsmen. I'm going to see how that works out. Taking some pretty heavy fire here from his massed ranks of his archers. Once again, he hasn't put them into loose formation, so that's going to actually turn out really well for our troops here. Let's go take a look at the cav fight, see what's going on here. Looks like we've got a pretty decisive clash here. We've thrown our Heavy Lancers into the battle here against the Serpent Guard. The Serpent Guard are cutting through them, but we are going to try and keep these guys out of the backs of our troops. We've got a unit of Eorling Axemen here that we're going to throw just kind of under the bus. We're going to use it to disrupt this charge here. He's going to try and run by these units as best he can. We're trying to outflank his infantry line. But I see this threat coming, and I'm going to throw my Riddermark Axemen in there to try and stop his troops from getting into the back of my battle line and destroying them. So these guys are actually going to take a lot of casualties, but these Serpent Guard are going to find themselves surrounded, so they're going to get hurt quite badly in return. They're trying to run through, trying to get into the backs of our troops here, who are struggling really hard against these Serpent Guard. Defeat is certain for our Eorling Swordsmen in the center here. But over on the flanks, things are going a hell of a lot better for us. We've managed to beat back this unit of cavalry here. They have taken some losses. We managed to save our archers, thankfully. I got a lot of unit on the flanks here trying to chase these guys down. We're not doing too well against the Serpent Guard here, but we are managing to deal a lot of damage to these Heavy Lancers. Defeat is certain for them. These Serpent Guard here are now shaken. They're having a hard time here. We are backing up our cavalry nicely with our heavy infantry. So these guys are just being chased around by our Rohan Riders. We're trying to bog them down so we can open fire on them with our archers. Let's go take a look at what's happening over here on the other flank. Our Royal Guard are cutting down the Serpent Guard. They have been almost completely annihilated over here on the flank. The Serpent Guard are just no match for the Royal Guard as they are in the book. The knighthood of the Rohirrim is proving to be much better than that of the Southron. So we are going to run right into these Southron Lancers, and we are going to run right through them. They have no chance. Looks like he's going to get a nice charge here into the backs of our infantry. The infantry fight's not going too great for us. His pikemen are doing really well. We are managing to butcher his troops here. So we are launching some some strikes against his lightly armored infantry here, his Corsair Archers and his Southron Archers. He does manage to get in there with a unit of Southron Warband that he kept in reserve. We managed to pull our troops out of there. Looks like we've managed, that's a unit of routing Serpent Guard in the back. So now that we've managed to destroy his units here on the flanks, he does have one unit of Southron Lancers. Oh yeah, they are Lancers, so they are running away right now. So we're going to take our victorious Royal Guard and we're going to use them to try and turn the infantry fight in our favor. We still have some infantry reserves. We're going to be able to so far we've been able to outflank these Haradrim Spearmen and these Serpent Guard here. Although victory is still apparently certain for them, he has opened a gap in his line, and we are using our archers to pour fire into there. I think that's a pretty decent move on our part. We can't beat these guys in melee, not very easily, but we do have them surrounded, and we do have their flanks exposed. So him beating back our center actually turned out really well for us. So in the back here, we've managed to get some Eorling Spearmen in amongst these pikemen. We're trying to use our Rohan Riders to launch some hammer and anvil strikes here. He does have a unit of Southron Lancers that he tried to throw into this fight against these guys. We are running them over, and it looks like he has possibly some Hashari. Did I maybe miss the Hashari in here? No, those are just Southron pikemen. Over here, his troops are opening fire onto our Royal Guard, but our Royal Guard are very heavily armored, so we're managing to get some nice strikes here off on these Southron Archers. His Corsair Archers are now very depleted. We are not actually focusing any fire on them with our Archers. We're trying to beat them back in this gap in the center here, but we are pulling off a unit of Royal Guard. We're going to throw them into the massed ranks of these Corsair Archers. This is going to be a really nice charge, and we're going to hit them very hard. We're just going to plow right through these guys, and I think that's going to be the end of that unit if we keep our troops in there. So we're just trying to keep our cavalry moving. We managed to pull back some of our Eored heavy lancers. They suffered very, very heavy casualties at the hands of the elite Serpent Guard on our right flank. A bit of a micro mistake here on our part. We're just kind of sitting around with our Riddermark Axemen, not really doing a whole lot. What we should be doing is outflanking this very vulnerable unit of Southron Pikemen. So we finally do get our act together here and start moving these guys into the battle. Let's see what we got going on over here. We managed to run over these units of Corsair Archers, rather. They've been completely destroyed as long as this unit of Southron Archers here have been suffering just constant repeated cavalry charges from our units. He's got a big blob over here under this tree. This is the Tree of Death, the Hangman's Tree. It looks like he does have a unit of Serpent Guard here, about 7 Serpent Guard. I think this might have his general in it. I believe that's his general right there. He hasn't gone down quite yet. Our cavalry here being overwhelmed just by the sheer numbers of these of those Corsair Archers. He's being very conservative with his general. His cavalry wing has been all but shattered. So he's just trying to keep his general alive, trying to keep his troops morale up for as long as possible. But these Southron Pikemen, despite the presence of their general in the nearby area, they are on the verge of routing. They are heavily outnumbered and just outclassed in that fight. So they're actually on their way out right now. And around this point, a victory is mine. But my opponent, in kind of following his tradition from our previous battles, is going to fight to the bitter end. We're now starting to focus some of our archer fire here on these very lightly armored spearmen, trying to preserve our numbers as long as we can, because you never know what happens in these battles. Things can happen and they just get turned around in ways that you wouldn't expect. So he is trying to chase our horses here with another unit of Southron Warband, fairly healthy unit of Southron Warband, still got about 2/3 of the unit left, but we are just managing to evade him with our Royal Guard. Pulling feints in here to try and draw these guys off, and then going for another target elsewhere. Doing a fairly decent job, I think, of microing our cav. So we are bringing in the remainder of our Rohan Riders, who just got butchered. But we're bringing in some of our Riddermark Axemen here to take on these Southron Warband. Try and tie them up, and I think we are going to actually start launching some hammer and anvil strikes into the backs of these guys. Big charge going off here. We got Swordsmen, you got Axemen, everyone working together to support their allies. He's still got a few archers, but we are starting to run them over here with our Royal Guard. So that's just about the end of these Southron Archers here. They do have their general still, so they aren't going to rout. I believe this is like the end of the general's bodyguard unit right here, just a couple of heavy cavalrymen. Don't think we got him yet. I don't know if we've actually killed his general at this point. No, his general's right there, so he's still alive. But our army is still pretty well intact. We lost a lot of troops. We got about 25% of our army left. A lot of that is centered inside of this nearly full-strength unit of Eorling Axemen, or Riddermark Axemen, rather, the two-handed Axemen. We're starting to get some friendly fire kills here off on our troops, but at this point, victory is definitely certain for us. We're going to start moving the rest of our troops here into battle against these pikemen and get a nice flank charge off here. A few of the pikes are going to go down in combat before they're even able to get their spears down and to form a wall against our troops. They're beginning to waver. We're going to speed up the battle a little bit here, and at this point, that's the end for the Haradrim, and we move on to the next round. We're going to be playing Admiral Thrawn once again. So we're going to have our final boss battle. Hopefully this time we can come out on top and move into the next round. We actually haven't done those battles yet, so we'll probably have them up in the next week, I would hope. But we'll see. We'll see kind of what happens with that. So let's look at the casualties here. Our Royal Guard doing tremendously well, 257 and 315 respectively. It's a lot of kills. Very impressive. So it's a good game to my opponent. I would shake his hand if I could. We really ground each other down there. About 63. Oh well, the percentages have changed. It was 75 earlier. Is it me or was it 75 earlier? I guess this, we have casualties healed after the battle. So he ground down my army to about 25% of its strength. He put up a great fight. So good job to him, and I'll see you guys in the next episode of whatever happens to come next. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.